Hello, welcome to my channel. I am doing a book review of Joel Duggar Dillard's book. I grew up in a fundamentalist church. I love analyzing this stuff. I have a few stories that I'll share maybe along the way if there's anything that reminds me of my childhood, and those will be some future videos as well where I'll go more into depth. Anyway, my previous book reviews about counting the cost. Did I say counting on earlier? Counting the cost. Are up here. I will link them below as well. Okay, so we're on chapter 6, I believe it is, and we're talking about the contract that Jim Bob was trying to force them to sign in exchange for $80,000 and how Jim Bob's controlling all his kids, financially controlling relationship. Jill mentions that her dad told them don't discuss the money, the $80,000 that he offered them, with anyone else, either outside or inside the family. If you have issues, don't go stirring contention among the brethren. You come to me. So this reminded me of employers who tell you can't discuss your salary with each other because they know some people will get mad and be like, hey, why is this new person who's less qualified than me making more money than me? We actually did this at my job recently. Jim Bob did not want his children to realize they hadn't gotten paid for 13 years of work. $80,000 is not equivalent to 13 years on a reality show. So Jill talks about how a few weeks later the paperwork for that $80,000 that we talked about in the previous video came through. And so Jill says, after having been tricked into signing the previous contract on her wedding day by her father, Derek and I were extra careful to study this one, showing it to a lawyer. Great idea. Lawyers are almost always worth it. It probably cost them like a few hundred to go to the lawyer to have them go over a document or write a document for you. She also included previous portions of the previous agreement that she'd been given because her dad refused to send her the entire contract that she signed on her wedding day. And they were suspicious of this new contract. So she says the contract was not with TLC or any other network. It was with Mad Family Incorporated, a company that Mom and Pops had previously set up in return for the $80,000 for the next 7 years, plus an unlimited number of years beyond that. If the company chose, of course they're going to choose, we would commit to making not just ourselves, but our children, very sick, any children yet to be born, available to any show that Mad Family Incorporated created or participated in. Yeah, they kind of lost that opportunity when Josh got arrested for CSAM. The show was officially canceled, spoiler alert. So it says we would be paid for that work as well, but at a rate that we would have to accept without negotiation. Okay, so he'd probably pay minimum wage at best, if that. This is a horrible contract. We would also have to sign an NDA which would remain active for the rest of our lives. How nice. So I think some of her siblings are silenced and can't speak out about any of this, or maybe even out about their family. I don't think Ginger signed it. It doesn't sound like she did, because her husband is more worldly and probably got them a lawyer and everything, because Ginger has spoken out how she was raised. Jill says $80,000 was a lot of money, but those strings were tight enough to choke. Yeah, there was no way either of us were going to sign. Jim Bob had been clear that they were not to talk about the deal with the other siblings or anyone else outside the family. Of course not, because somebody's going to be like, this is a bad deal. My battery's almost dead. To me at the time, the level of secrecy and control that Pops exerted on us felt normal. We had been conditioned to obey. That is key. And that is very common in homeschooling families, especially ones that I knew. You don't question. The joke was in our church when a mom told a kid to jump, the kid was supposed to say, "How high, mommy?" So it talks about Jim Bob would warn us against stirring up contention among the brethren while also using us against each other and duping us into signing contracts. So this is repeated throughout the book about him using his children against each other. What a sick man. So most of the kids were scared enough of Pop's displeasure to obey, but not everyone did what he said. Good for them. A few siblings asked us whether we were going to sign. I told them no, choosing my words carefully, fearful of stirring up family problems. And that's also a sign of abuse too. I was surprised that almost everyone I spoke to felt fine about signing. Some said they had some edits they wanted to make to the agreement first, but I started to feel like they were being swept away by a soon-to-be treacherous river. I wanted to jump in and save them, but I wasn't so sure that I had that kind of power. That is very sad. And you'll see Jill wanting to protect her siblings throughout. I mean, she tried to protect Josh in the Megyn Kelly interview. She tried to protect siblings in interviews that we've seen since then and in videos and everything. She says, signing a deal with Mad Family Incorporated felt like jumping on board a paper aircraft. Nothing about it felt safe. Yeah. Sounds like a horrible contract, but if you're isolated and you grew up very sheltered, you're not going to know that it's a bad contract. Good thing her husband was there as well to kind of look over it, because he'd been to college and everything. And even Jill was kind of looking at it and being like, this is not a good idea. Inside me, there was a small flame of hope that somehow we might be able to build a stronger relationship in the future. So you see that throughout the book. I mean, she never really gives up on wanting a relationship with her family, as she should. But it's also a sign of trauma to do anything to want peace, to try to get peace, to agreeing to anything and just like becoming emotional and melting down. And anyway, not that she's doing that here, she is standing her ground, which is good. So she says they got an advice from an attorney outside the family circle of influence. Great, that's good. Derek and I agreed the next step would be to ask Pops to hand over a full copy of the contract that he had me sign the day before the wedding. Okay, so it's the day before the wedding, when they were having the rehearsal dinner, not the day of the wedding. He'd already sent part of it to us in June, but seeing the whole thing felt like a good opportunity for him to be transparent and open with us. He was resistant. Yeah, I mean, your father should be transparent and open with you, especially if he's getting you to sign into a years-long contract. So it talks about they went on a family vacation, and instead of being all crowded on top of each other at home, they wanted to talk to Jim Bob one-on-one. He came over to them at this theme park in Branson, Missouri. The Duggars love to go to Branson. I feel like there's something still between us, Jim Bob said. Derek said, there's been some trust broken recently that might take a while to rebuild. And Jim Bob says, it goes both ways. You've broken my trust too. Yeah, I mean, what a manipulator. Like just going, it's like a child or going back at you, like, you know, back and forth. Whataboutism. And then he says, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I didn't let you know that you were obligated. I didn't let you know what you were obligated to. And then Jill goes, we forgive y'all and love y'all too, and really hope we can move forward and have a great family relationship. She just is desperate to have a peaceful family relationship, which she should be entitled to. And her dad's really getting in the way of that. Okay, I'm going to end that here because my battery's dying. Or almost dead. It may have already died. Thanks for watching. I'll be back next week with another chapter in the book review.